First of all, thank you so much for coming and especially to coming in our office and welcome. This is actually the first official visit after the outbreak of the pandemic, but this is not your first visit and even not first our meeting. So that's the second reason why I have to express my appreciations. But let's start, and this is kind of highlighting the importance of bilateral relations because it's about this first visit after the pandemic. But what is the particular aim for this particular visit this time?
Well, actually, we consider the Eastern Partnership Program of the European Union as extremely important. And we understand that as a consequence of the COVID crisis, there will be a totally new world order coming.
Definitely.
And in this new world order, if European Union does want to have a position, does want to have leverage, then does have to be able to build partnerships, alliances, making friends outside of the European Union. And Georgia is definitely the front runner of the Eastern Partnership program of ours. And we are pushing for a tighter cooperation between European Union and its Eastern partners. And I wanted to make clear and sure that Hungary's commitment towards the assistance to help the Georgian state to be successful in integration remains unchanged when it comes to European or Euro-Atlantic integration. So this is number one. Number two, that we have established a common task force with David, with Minister Zalkaliani, which task force will have the obligation to explore the situation in your neighborhood and in ours. And if we see that the relaxation of the restrictive measures when it comes to traveling to the countries of each other are given, then we can make the necessary decisions.
Despite you talked about this this morning during the press conference, I'd like to ask you for the honest answer about the company, Hungarian company of Visa, that was some kind of information in Georgian media that it has some kind of problems with the local government. But the stopping operation, I mean, shutting down an operation for the Visa, is it just for the coronavirus or does it really have some kind of problem with the local government?
Well, the situation is very obvious. Tourism and international civic aviation are maybe the two most affected areas of industry when it comes to the COVID crisis. Basically, all airlines in Europe have stopped their operations, at least to a big part. Wizz Air has made the same. During the last months, they have carried cargo for the Hungarian government from China to Hungary when it comes to protective clothing and protective devices. And they have been involved in repatriating Hungarian citizens from abroad. But generally, they stopped the biggest part of their operation. Now they are very satisfied with the operational circumstances here in Georgia. It was not an accident. They have opened the base in Kutaisi. That was not an accident that they were flying 38 different European destinations in 19 different European countries. They would like to continue. I just talked with the CEO on the phone today, and he informed me that whenever the restrictive measures on international flights are over, they will come back. They hope to restart operations from August. So if the ban on international flights expires on the 31st of July, as it stands now, then they're ready to continue operations from August. And we understand that there are many rumors, many fake news around the company, but they don't want to give up their market-leading position. And it's very rare that an airline managed from a small Central European country outnumbers the market share of Turkish Airlines. And that's what happened here in Georgia. The market share of Wizz Air amounted to 12%, Turkish Airlines to around 10-11%. So this is something that Wizz Air definitely will not give up. So there's no problem with the government, no problem with the cooperation with the government. It's just simply the COVID.
Today you mentioned that there are serious achievements in Georgia and in Hungary in case of fighting the coronavirus. Are there any new prospects of cooperation based on this experience, or maybe the new ways of cooperation is on the table after the pandemic?
Yeah, surely they are. Today we have signed the agreement about continuation of the scholarship program, in the framework of which 80 Georgian students are being invited to Hungary to conduct their studies on Hungarian universities financed by the Hungarian state for a year. Now this program is being continued until 2023. We expect Georgian students to utilize all 80 scholarships we offer. And based on that, we will have a tighter cooperation between the State University of Tbilisi with the Budapest Technical University, especially on the field of mathematics and on the field of nuclear research. And we understand a new university is going to be launched here, the International University in Kutaisi. And this is a development what we will follow very closely. We have already agreed with your Minister of Education that the biggest Hungarian university and Kutaisi International University will establish the necessary contacts in order to be able to discuss about the additional forms of future cooperation. Now we have a Hungarian professor teaching Hungarian language and Hungarian grammar and literature on the State University of Tbilisi. This is something that we can also build on. And on the side of economy, we have launched a credit line of $135 million at the Hungarian Exim Bank, which is there to serve exclusively Hungarian-Georgian business-to-business cooperation. So if Hungarian and Georgian companies would like to come together, would like to come to an agreement on very basic export-import transactions, or forming joint venture, or running for tenders on the markets of further countries, then such projects can take the financial assistance of this credit line, which I hope will further expand the cooperation when it comes to infrastructure, when it comes to water management or defense industry.
Thank you, Mr. Minister. Mr. Minister, let me move to the issues related to EU's and Hungarian relations. I mean, other members of the EU and Hungary. And first of all, I would like to ask you about the discussions, very crucial discussions, which are on the way now about the budget and recovery funds. Where is Hungary? What is the position of the Hungarian state?
Well, first of all, the Hungarian mindset says that first money should be earned in order to be able to be spent. So everything that goes against this approach is a little bit strange to us. On the other hand, even if we make such a decision that we establish such a fund, then we have to be sure that the division of the money is being fair and just. But currently the situation is that richer countries can get more money than the poorer countries. And that's something very complicated to understand, to accept, and to sell. You know, Hungary and Portugal, for example, two member states of the European Union, exactly the same size of population, exactly the same size of territory. But Hungary would get 8 billion euros less than Portugal. So what's the reason for that? And you know, I think that...
and what is the explanation for that?
Economic situation, taking control on the pandemic. But you know, what we cannot accept either, that those who behaved in a more disciplined way would have to pay for those who have not acted responsibly and in a disciplined way. So I think fairness and just to be just and fair is extremely important. Now, what I'd like to add is that you know, these European funds are many times portrayed by international liberal media as if they were matters of generosity of Western European taxpayers, or as if those were humanitarian donations, which is definitely not the case. These are our funds. These are the funds of the countries in the European Union. We have signed a treaty, a contract, when we joined European Union. There we had obligations and there we had benefits. And since we have delivered all our obligations, meaning opening up our markets, making it free for, you know, companies coming from much richer countries, that's why we have the benefits. So it's not a one-way street. A contract is always a two-lane street. you comply with your obligations and you get the benefits. And since we have complied with our obligations, these benefits are our benefits, and it's not a matter of decision of any liberal political forces. So we understand that the German presidency tries to be quick with going forward about this multi-annual financial framework. We understand this approach, but for us, speed is less important than the quality of the final outcome.
Yeah. Definitely. So you mentioned the obligations, but frequently you are criticized about abusing the so-called European values, and recently franchise which was arguing that you have not to get some funding because of this kind of abuses and so on. What is your response? What could be if majority of the members would agree with France and you would be refused to get the funds from the general budget?
First of all, these decisions require a unanimous decision.
Yeah.
Unanimous decision, unanimous agreement, and so if one vetoes, then it cannot pass. This is number one. Number two, we have been under enormous attacks since we have been in office. We've been in office since 2010. And you know, it's very complicated, or even I would say very much impossible, for a international liberal mainstream media or international liberal mainstream politicians to digest that there is a patriotic, Christian Democrat, conservative, right-wing government in Hungary, which definitely goes against the liberal mainstream and is still successful. This is something that they cannot get, they cannot understand, they want to get rid of it. That's why they
can't accept.
Yeah, they don't accept. That's why the government in Poland is being under very heavy criticism. That's why we are under very heavy criticism. That's why the Prime Minister of Czech Republic is being under very heavy criticism. That's why the Slovenian government is under very heavy attack. Simply because we are rightist governments, we are patriotic governments, we don't accept lecturing. We think that it is our own right to make a decision about the future of our own country, and we don't let external partners to lecture us and to educate us.
Are you really active, I mean, these countries, as a group of countries inside the EU, I mean, to support your positions?
Very active. This is one of the problems, I guess. I mean, problems of those who attack us, that we are very active. You know, there's...
and very supportive to each other.
Yeah. You know, there's a very important grouping or alliance within the European Union, which is called the Visegrad Group.
Yeah,
this consists of 4 countries: Poland, the Czech Republic, Slovakia, and Hungary. This is a historically deeply funded, deeply rooted cooperation. And you know, the 4 ruling parties of the 4 governments are involved in different party families of the European Union, but it doesn't matter. We have a national interest which combines us all. So that's why this Central European cooperation is much stronger than the countries, you know, separately. And this is not very much liked by our Western European friends, because our voice is being heard very loudly. And when it comes to anti-migration policies, for example, when it comes to rational economic policies based on tax cuts, when it comes to strong European Union, but not being based on strong Brussels, but being based on strong member states. So this Central European cooperation is sometimes not very much liked by Brussels and the Western Europeans. But this is our own right to make such kind of alliances within the EU.
Is it somehow the issue to widen this group of members who are supporting this idea? I mean, out of Visegrad countries, or maybe Italy is coming in, or some other countries are joining this group?
Well, yeah, Italy, when Deputy Prime Minister Salvini was in position, was definitely representing a policy which was a political strategy which was much closer to the Visegrad countries than the political strategy of the current government. But definitely Visegrad countries, than the countries on the Western Balkans, be it Slovenia, be it Croatia. The Austrians are very close to us in this regard. Sometimes we are able to build agreement and common platform with the Baltics. But you know, we don't like this kind of artificial separation within the European Union, East and West, old member states, young member states, whatever, because it doesn't make sense. We are in favor of the unity of the European Union. But In order to be able to build a unity within the European Union, this should mean that we don't interfere to domestic issues of others, and don't command, don't judge, don't lecture others. Unfortunately, currently this is the case. I mean, Western Europe, some Western European political leaders and media and some institutions in Brussels love lecturing the Central Europeans, but you know, we would like to base our foreign policy and our political contacts on mutual respect. We give the respect to our counterparts, but we definitely expect them to respect us as well.
So last month, the European Court of Justice said that your law obliging the NGOs to register as a foreign-funded entities is discriminatory and unjustified. Could we expect you will amend your law to meet court's requirement?
You know, when it comes to ruling of courts, you definitely have to respect them. Here I have to tell you that that's a very unfair decision, a decision which has nothing to do with reality, and a decision which has nothing to do with preserving or helping or respecting the sovereignty of countries. Because what happened here? We made a regulation which made it very clear that if NGOs which have the goal to influence the public opinion, so I'm not speaking about the Association of the Fishermen, I'm not speaking about, you know, like a sports association or a local association in order to reconstruct the playgrounds in that given municipality. We are speaking about so-called NGOs which became political actors and which have a definite goal of influencing the public will, thus influencing the future of the country. And I think it's a very legitimate expectation towards these organizations to announce from where they got funding. Because if they get funding externally, then they definitely serve external interest. And if you wanna influence the public opinion, the public will, based on external interests, then this is something which matters national security. So I think it's a very fair and legitimate expectation on behalf of the people that both political parties and other types of organizations willing to end up in political discourse reveal or announce from where they are funded. And to be honest, it's very surprising that international organizations like Transparency International, named Transparency, are against transparency. You know, so it shows how hypocritical they are. They don't want to do anything with they don't want to do anything with transparency, with democracy, with rule of law. What they want is to serve the interest of their financiers. That's it.
So what would be the reality if you are meeting the requirements of the court?
Well, then these NGOs can be financed secretly, and they can influence things, or they can make an attempt to influence things in Hungary according to external interests. This is what we have fought always in our history, to be free of external, influences, to be free of external attempts to interfere into our domestic issues. You know, that was communism when there were external influences governing things in Hungary. This is something that we don't want that anymore.
Let me speak about the pandemic period a little bit, because there was some statements from the Italian side during the very outbreak of the pandemic that they could not feel appropriate support from the partners, and there was some kind of claims from other countries as well. What you can say about the solidarity inside the European Union?
Well, what I can tell you is the following, that it's a very important consequence we can draw from the crisis, that the European coordination made by Brussels remained insignificant. So all measures were made on national basis, all responses were made on national basis, all responses reflected upon the national interests. So, but that was pretty understandable. I mean, for such a crisis situation, Brussels bureaucracy and Brussels institutions were simply not ready. They were not able to help the EU member states. We have helped Italians on our modest way, so it was rather the member states helping each other instead of Brussels coordinating.
Institutionally,
yes. So I agree with the statement that the European institutions failed to coordinate in this crisis. They have not made timely measures. They were slow. but maybe this is because these institutions were not designed for such kind of situations.
For what kind of situations these institutions are? Because they are not for pandemics, they are not for Brexit-like crises,
you're right.
They are not for economic crisis.
They are designed for situations when everything goes smoothly.
Great, but anyway, we are talking about the integration with the European Union, and that's why I would like to ask you the final question about the Commissioner Várhelyi as the appointee of the Prime Minister Orban, and that's why I'm asking you, what would be the aims for the next couple of years regarding the enlargement of the EU, and how much the crisis affected the prospects of enlargement?
Look, I think crisis is an argument in favor of enlargement. I really do believe that European Union cannot be strong in the upcoming world order if we are not having a wide variety of allies. And that's why Eastern Partnership is very important, enlargement is very important. We think that we should speed up the enlargement process towards the Western Balkans. The Hungarian Commissioner is very eager on that, he's working very hard, and I see a good hope that this is going to fly. Montenegro has opened all negotiations chapters. Serbs are moving forward. Pro-European Integration Party has won election by a big margin, and the president who is in favor of the European integration process of Serbia is very strong. So when it comes to Eastern Partnership, I think that here the blah blah should be left behind. I mean, statements, resolutions, nice words, whatever. What I think would be important actions. And I have made a proposal to our friends that at least four concrete actions should be made. One, to abolish all the sanctions against Belarus, because building Eastern Partnership and having sanctions, this is not something that go together.
It's kind of partnership sanctions.
It's pretty, let's say, it's a dilemma, right? The second is that we should sign finally the enhanced cooperation agreement with Azerbaijan, because Azerbaijan will play a very important role when it comes to energy security in the future in Europe. Third, we have to release all the macro-financial assistance to Moldova, because since this government has been in office, these financial assets have been postponed because somebody in Brussels doesn't like the current government. And the fourth, regarding Georgia. Although it's NATO issue, but there's a big overlap between EU and NATO members. So 22 or 23 NATO members are EU members as well. And that's why I urged our fellow EU member states to help Georgia for a quicker integration with NATO cooperation. I don't like this special partnership program with Georgia. I like the membership action plan with Georgia. This is something we speak very openly for a long time now. Georgia is the biggest pro capita non-allied contributor to very important missions of ours, including Afghanistan. So my question is, what else do we expect from a partner, if not that? So I'm really eager to help Georgia in getting the membership action plan with NATO, and this definitely will help the other way around the European integration process as well.
Mr. Minister, you mentioned the very important actions, regarding Belarus, Azerbaijan, and so on. But the claims from the opposite part inside the EU is kind of democratic values and so on and so on. What could be in this case? Should we say no to the democratic values, or this is kind of baseless claims towards these countries?
In this regard, I don't like this approach. That we are lecturing others. I think the best judgment about the state of Georgian democracy can be made by the Georgian people. And if the Georgian people are happy with the current government, then I assume they are happy with the current situation. This is exactly the same in Hungary. That the judgment of the quality of Hungarian democracy should be left to Hungarian people. Look, we have won 3 continuous elections, 2010, 14, 18, the big margin all time, 2/3 majority on our own. Do we really think that the Hungarian people would vote for a party with such a margin in case it would violate democratic values and democratic institutions? I hardly believe that. And I don't think that the Georgian people would vote in favor of government which violates the rights of the Georgian people either. So I think these kind of political issues should be left to be judged by the citizens of that given country.
Is it the same with Belarus and Azerbaijan? I mean,
well, you know, I have very good friends in the leadership of Azerbaijan. The foreign minister is a very good friend and good cooperating partner. For me, we value their president as well. He has won again the presidential election. I mean, who are we to judge? Why should, I mean, it's well above my payroll to judge what's going on in Azerbaijan because I don't live there. I don't have a personal experience. And once again, it's not my job. It's not my job.
Mr. Minister, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
And wish you good luck and wish you good flight back.
Thank you.